so what this podcast is for people who are starting to wake up and going down the rabbit hole and find it challenging to stay positive, optimistic, and create from that place. Okay.
Welcome to the Conscious Rebel Podcast with your host, Lucy Morningstar.
Hello, Rebels. This is episode 10 of the Conscious Rebel podcast. And in this episode, I want to finally talk to you about the intention behind starting the Conscious Rebel podcast and who this is for and what I hope to achieve through this podcast. So let me start with who this is for, because I think this is easier to start because this podcast is for people like me. And so what does it mean? So I am an artist. Mainly, one of the roles, I would say like one of the roles I take on, one of the titles I take on is an artist. And I am also into, I'm not religious, but I am into spiritual practices. And I have explored, Christianity, meditation, affirmation, the law of attraction, Eckhart Tolle, astrology, and I am currently studying human design. So a lot of these kind of things. Okay. And I think for many people like me who identify as an artist will and also practice spirituality. Oh, and also by the way, I am a vegan. Like I want to say, like I am not one of those angry vegans and activist vegans, and I hope not to be, try not to be. I don't eat animals. Okay. Um, so that's where. So when I tell you this, you probably can suspect that in terms of political views, I used to lean towards the left, and I think that in many of my peers, okay, the artist community that I was involved in, and also the spirituality community that I was involved in, and I saw that people also lean left, okay, and I also illustrated a tarot deck and called the Modern Love Tarot. So my peer also included my collaborator, okay, and those people who also tarot artists and tarot readers and publishers and authors, that kind of stuff. As artists, we have a gentle soul in some way because we have compassion. We want to create beauty. We want to create harmony in the world through our creation, and we want to do what we love and also enjoy a comfortable life doing what we love, and we want that for everyone. And we want to be able to express ourselves freely, and we want that for everyone to be able to express themselves freely. And we also struggle with not thinking that we're enough, and we also struggle with self-doubt, and we struggle with giving ourselves permissions to just be ourselves, so that we want to free ourselves, and we want everyone else to also be free to be who they are and express themselves. And we hate suppression because we feel like we have been suppressed, because how many of us as kids that we've been told that we are too loud, that we are you're not allowed to draw on your textbooks, so like you can't be this, you can't be that, you have to be a good kid, or and how many of us have even gave up our dream of becoming an artist, and gave up going to art school and learning to draw. I know I did. Okay, I studied finance and I got into corporate banking, and before I started learning to draw and paint online. Okay, so how many of us gave up that part of us because we were trying to fit into mode that is more socially acceptable. Okay, so we have been through that, and we don't want that, and we don't want that for anyone. So we wanted to be compassionate towards everyone, and we want everyone to be free to express themselves and also be accepted for who they are. That's why that we probably, many of us, lean towards the left in terms of political view, because the right side politically is seen as capitalism, right? And the few who has the power oppressing the have-nots or the less resourceful, right? So that is that is, the conventional and simplified view on this political spectrum, and why we find ourselves lean towards the left. Okay, and so this is like what I say, people like me. And the next part of people like me is that we are starting to wake up and see that the world is not what it seems. So for me, that started in the last couple of years. Just before COVID, I started to feel something. And then as COVID started and the authorities' actions around it, and more, that it really accelerated my fall into the rabbit hole, you can say. So you started to wake up and realize that the world is not what it seems. What I talked about before would be the stage that those in power has put on the performance for us all to see, right? That's through their mainstream media, their social media, the entertainment, the news, the newspapers, and what they teach at school, everything. Okay, that's the stage. But the reality that's behind the stage is the reality. Well, you can say I will quote, reality, because as you dig into the rabbit hole, you would think, well, is it what we are experiencing now really is the reality, or is it a simulation, hologram, that kind of stuff? But anyway, before we go even into that, let's just say, you realize that the world is not what it seems. Okay, the government is not there to protect you. They are not there to do what is good for the people. They are not even elected by the people. The two-party democracy is a joke. So anyways, as you start to go into the rabbit holes and find out that the world is not what it seems, and then quote unquote reality is stranger than fiction and more horrible than horror films. And the challenge then comes: how do we then stay positive and optimistic? How do we then not fall into hopelessness and despair? Right? Because I know, as I find out more and more about what is actually going on, that the airplanes that the evil elites, the government's control, are actually spraying aluminum and all sorts of toxins into the air, and that goes into everything you eat and breathe. And what about the water? All the food. Many of the natural disasters that have happened, we think that natural disasters are actually engineered by those people. Okay, and who do I mean by those people? So the cabals, like, if you are what I call people like me, then you already know who I'm talking about. And if you don't, and you are curious, then you can certainly stay on and listen to my other podcast episodes and find out if you're curious. So if you do, then you're my people. So the challenge is, how do we stay optimistic and positive and not fall into helplessness, hopelessness, and despair? Okay, and depression, because that is what they want. Okay, and I think part of the reason that they let us talk about the reptilians, the greys, and let us talk about the cabals, to a certain extent, okay, it's of course censored, but it's not completely gone. If they want to just shut all of us up, they probably could. But why they are still letting some of us to a certain extent speak about those kind of things is because they want to create confusion and fear. And as you know, for people who are waking up to see that the world is controlled by the few elites and probably the reptilians and the greys and those evil other things, then as I start finding out more and more about those, the some of the first reactions or thoughts that came up was, wow, you know, I am just a woman. I am just one woman. I want to take good care of my kids. I want them to be healthy and fit and strong, and I want them to, you know, have a satisfactory and happy, joyful life. And I want to just you know, make my paintings and stay healthy and strong and make some paintings and hopefully make a comfortable living doing that. And that is just what I want, and what I think I have control over, like as just one woman, right? One family, like how, like what can I do against government spraying toxins into the air and poisoning everything, you know? Or like, you know, that's just one aspect. Like what can we do? Like, so it's very easy to then just feel so small and helpless, and then, wow, there's really nothing I can do, and then fall into despair and depression, and then all your creativity is gone, right? And I think back to where I was talking about, that is what they wanted. They want us to feel hopeless, helpless, despair, depression, and fear. Okay, they are so big and powerful, and they control everything. They control they control the electricity, they control the power, they control the media, social media, mass media, you know, Google, Facebook. They can control every aspect of our daily lives. Then so how can we do anything in defiance? Like probably very little, right? Like at least you know, that was my initial reaction and thoughts. The more I found out about it, I don't want to stay ignorant, but sometimes I just felt like I couldn't take it anymore, because it just made me feel really bad and helplessness and probably apathetic at one stage, because, well, if there's nothing I can do, I better just not do anything. But then I started to realize, wow, that is what they want. And the reason they want that is because the opposite is powerful. The opposite, what is the opposite, is detrimental to their plan. And what do I mean by the opposite? The opposite is, instead of the emotion of fear, helplessness, hopelessness, and despair and apathy, the opposite of those emotions, optimism, positivity, light, love, those emotions under the umbrella of love, they don't want us to feel all those positive emotions, the love, the because the emotion of love, joy is powerful, super powerful. That is why if you look at the COVID pandemic, I will just, you know, quote pandemic, okay? That's why the government, the health department, every fucking day at the, you know, for 2 years on TVs, social media, they're just broadcasting how many new cases, how many people dead, and all that kind of things, okay? Fear mongering, okay? You know, just looking at the health department and the government, how every fucking day is telling us at the first 2 years, how many new cases, how many dead, all the fucking time, repeatedly, daily, okay? Non-stop. That what make me think about, well, if this is such a big issue, why don't you teach people what they can do at home for prevention and what they can do if they started having symptoms, okay? Rather than just making them also scared of their lives and also scared of everyone else. Anyway, so fear is one they want us to experience, and because the opposite of that is detrimental to them. Okay, fear is literally, okay, I mean literally, the sustenance that they consume in order to survive. And that's why they are thriving right now, because there's so much fear we are experiencing, from the war, from, war, continuous warring throughout our human history, what we know as our human history, because they feed on it. Okay. So who this podcast is for people who are like me, who consider ourselves to be good people. We want what's good for the world, but then we start to realize that the world is not what it seems. We start to go down the rabbit hole, and we think that, and we now starting to see that reality is stranger than fiction and more horrible than horror films. How do we stay positive? How do we still stay in the vibration of love, right? How do we still stay joyful and create from that place? Every time we go into another rabbit hole, we start to see something else. The cabals control everything. The reptilians are great. They are doing this or that now. How they are opening portals, causing natural disasters, like weather, geoengineering, weather control, like all that kind of things. Every time I now see these kind of words or this kind of information, I take that as a sign that we, the people, have won. And it's not a future tense that we will win. It's a past tense that we have won, at least in the spiritual field already. That's why the evil, we just call them the evil, the Satanist, right? That's why they are speeding this up so much that caused so many people to wake up fast. Even people like me who, for the past 30s or many years were just, living in my little bubble, believing the government is here to do, what is good for us, right? And so if not for, what's happening with the Trump, and then what happened with the pandemic, I will probably still living in that bubble and just walking my life like a zombie, sleeping and believing in everything that's fed to me. Okay. So what this podcast is for people who are starting to wake up and going down the rabbit hole and find it challenging to stay positive, optimistic, and create from that place. Okay. So if you find yourself falling into apathy, despair, like, what can we do? There's nothing I can do. This is too big. Take everything, every little, evil thing that you see as a sign that we have won already. The good have won already. The people have won already. That's why they're speeding this up so much, right? They're speeding up this so much because they have already lost in the spiritual field. That's why they try to speed up this so much on the physical level, in the hope that they can still take us. Okay. Every time I see this, I take it as a sign that I have lost. And what I can do and what every one of us can do now in our power is to stay aware. Okay. Definitely do not fall back into your ignorant bubble. Okay. Because when you fall into an ignorant bubble, you might think, oh, I'm just going to not pay attention to this and not pay attention to this anymore, just not know this anymore. Because when you don't know, you will be fed things. Like every time I see something, I think, is this possible? Like, who is benefiting from it? Like, who is benefiting if I believe this true, or who is benefiting if I believe this is not true, this is false? Like, I question everything. But it can be, it takes your energy to question things, right? It's easier to just do as you're told, like wake up every day, just go to work and come home and then go to sleep, like live a zombie life, live in your zombie-ish bubble. That's easy, but when you want to live awake, it is less so. So I was think we still need to stay vigilant and stay alert. But then how do we not fall into despair and fear? Is every time you see those things, okay, how every time we see how pedophiles are now calling themselves minor attractive people, it's so gross. And how they are like indoctrinating our children through schools and TV's entertainment. Every time I see that, I also take it a sign that we have one already. That's why the thing's getting so much more and more ridiculous. So obviously ridiculous. So then more and more, and it will lead to more and more people waking up. And the reason and the reason they are speeding this up is because they know they have lost. Okay. What's the next thing I want to talk about? Oh, okay. How to help us, people like you and me, stay positive. I think there are two ways that I actually want to accomplish, helping us stay in the vibration of love. I know it sounds cheesy, right? But stay positive, stay joyful, create from that place. So how do I want to accomplish that? And I'm open to hearing your suggestions. Okay. So first is, as you've seen in the previous 9 episodes, is that I want to talk to people. I want to talk to people who I respect, people who I at least from my perspective, from what I see, that they think for themselves, and I think and I also think that they are like me, waking up from the indoctrination, waking up from this zombie dream life. So those are the people that I talk to. There are people, they from they work in different fields, from spirituality, from physical health, from art. Okay, so basically that is to help me and people like me, you, stay strong, okay, in body, mind, and spirit. Okay, stay strong. We have to stay strong physically because our body is the temple to our spirit. We have to take care of our body so that we have the energy to stay positive. And then talk to artists who are creating from that place, how despite all this that they see, they still have the creativity to create from a place of love and positivity and optimism. And I want to have some genuine conversations. I want to talk to people who probably might even disagree with me. For example, Wendy from one of the episodes about intuitive eating. I think we disagree on weight and physical health and eating, but that's okay. Okay, I am not about having everyone agreeing with me. And so the second way that I hope to do it is just do some solo shows like this one. I have not given myself permission to do it because there's this voice in my head saying, people already know what you know, like what do you have to say, like or nothing you say is valuable or helpful. Who will listen to you? Like you don't have an audience, or whatever audience you have don't need to hear you. Like I have this voice in my head telling me all this, but then I also know that I actually consume a lot of information and I do a lot of thinking, and then in my offline life, I am a lot cooler than I am actually am online because I am not giving myself the permission to be myself. I censor myself. I have experiences and knowledge to share, and also just my challenges and my lessons from staying strong in body, mind, and spirit. And how do I do that? It might resonate with you some days, it might not some other days. But if it helps one person, right? That's what they say. If it helps one person, then it's all worth it. And I think, if I can help myself, like at one stage, I was like freaking fucking just in despair. But I am now feeling like really hopeful, optimistic, and I am like just very firm in my belief that we have won. It's not that I don't waver, I do, but then how do I get back on track? And I think for people like me, that is the challenge, and I do want to share that very real with you guys. So anyway, I think that is this episode of the Conscious Rebel podcast. And if you have any feedback, and if there's something that you want me to talk about, please just email me or find me on social media. My Instagram is artist Lucy Morningstar, and my website is lucymorningstar.art. So thank you very much. I will see you in the next episode.